Hello folks, welcome back to the Sovereignty Masterclass. Hope everyone is doing very well. In this video presentation, we're going to be going through the notes that I've taken out of a brilliant book series called The ABCs of the UCC. And in this video in particular, we're just going to go through briefly Article 1, which is general provisions. Okay, but I want this to be part of a mini-series where we're going to be going through and breaking down the notes that I've taken out of the other books, which cover Article 3, negotiable instruments, okay, and Article 4, bank deposits and collections and other modern payment systems. We're going to go through Article 5, letters of credit, Article 7, documents of title, Article 8, investment securities, and Article 9, secure transactions. Okay, and these books, I highly recommend anyone on this advanced journey who want to learn how to administer their estate, become a private banker and control their securities and security interests, to go away and purchase this, which you can get from American Bar Association website. That's where I purchased these, okay, and they can ship internationally because it has otherwise more explanatory depth off the back of otherwise what I'm going to be covering, okay, in each presentation, breaking down the codes of each given article, okay, which is pretty much all you would really need to know. But I really do encourage you guys to go and purchase this and have this on your shelf for reference, okay, so it's just got more examples and also case law, which can also help provide you with different angles in order to gain a better understanding as to some of these concepts and codes, okay, that's governing all of these securities, which is the waters that we're swimming in, right? So we recollect 1933, they took away all the gold, which made everything colorable, okay, so the substance, we basically had securities now replace substance as collateral for debt. As a result of the substance being removed, we had colorable money, which governs then colorable contracts. And as a result of the colorable contracts that are being drafted, they had to come up with a colorable law system. So what is that colorable legal system that we're swimming in? It's all securities, it's otherwise the UCC. Okay, so it's paramount for anyone on this journey, especially going through the more advanced Treasury pack process, who sent out that pack, got that pack done, put it together, waiting for their bonds to cure, the bonds have cured. In the meantime, studying this stuff, understand it off the back of your hand so you know how to control your securities, okay, which is the waters we're swimming in. So you become a master, an admiral on your ship with it being indemnified if your indemnity bond, okay, you got your set-off bond, your international bit of exchange, all of these commercial papers and terms, terminologies and definitions and processes and procedures and agencies that are there to govern these waters and flows of credits and securities, okay, for your benefit going forward as a sui juris in order to be able to walk on water just like Jesus did, okay. So with that being said, we're going to go through now Article 1, general provisions, very briefly. Again, this is nice and short and sweet, and then obviously hop on to Article 3, negotiable instruments, and just go from there, Article 5, 7, 8 and 9, okay, and break it all down. It should otherwise reveal to you why we're doing what we're doing when it comes to the security agreement, the UCC 1 financing statement, how to perfect your security interests, how to control your security interests and your res, okay, what is required when drafting up a negotiable instrument, and especially when we come into doing our more advanced processes, the recoupments each year, issuing our own unlimited credit, okay, through the form of checks, drafts, notes, okay, all this stuff is just going to really put you in good stead going forward when it comes to, you know, administering your estate and issuing your own unlimited credits and controlling all of your property, res, drafts, bills, notes, okay, which is all just securities at the end of the day. All right, and securities are now replaced substance as collateral for debt. Once you get your head around that, you are pretty much above the rest on this journey, and it's just a matter of just moving forwards, keep punching through these different barriers. We haven't got many barriers left for those on the advanced Treasury pack. Okay, so give yourself a pat on the back, and once you have all of these articles behind you, you're going to be in a really good position going forwards with confidence in breaking down how you can start accessing this whole realm of securities, okay, which is quite exciting. All right, so with that being said, let's dive straight into this. You have the luxury, of course, of speeding me up at either 1.25 or 1.5 or even faster for those of you who, you know, can actually handle that amount of information that fast. But it's just going to be an accretion process, saturation, repetition is key, like all these things when learning these codes. But you'll start connecting the dots and seeing like, I see, that's why we're doing that, that's why we've got the security agreement, that's why we're doing the UCC 1 financing statement, and obviously try my best to explain and give examples to that as well as we go through. All right, so let's get started on Article 1, General Provisions. So it states in the book, since it was first proposed over 70 years ago, the Uniform Commercial Code has become both an indispensable part of the study of law and an essential part of legal practice. Adopted by all 50 states, the code has been hailed as one of the great products of American law. Its impact is by no means limited to the United States. The code has become an important US export. Key, other nations have modelled their laws after our Uniform Commercial Code, hint, hint. And portions of the code and its principles have been carried over into international instruments such as the United Nations Convention on the International Sale of Goods, the United Nations Convention on the Assignment of Receivables in International Trade, and the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law, which is UNIDROIT. You also have UNCITRAL, which governs international promissory notes and bills of exchange too. But if you recollect, under the UCC Connection presentation that I did, and or have read that book, the UCC Connection, it otherwise shows you that every single member state has otherwise signed up to the UNIDROIT Act or statute, is otherwise covertly administering the UCC in their court systems, which is otherwise disguised as statutory jurisdiction, because they don't want to admit to the public yet that they're operating under a colourable admiralty system. And this UNIDROIT institution, for those of you who haven't read the UCC Connection or watched my presentation on that, highly recommend you do, just to provide that invaluable context as to why the UCC is so important internationally. If these few sentences haven't already convinced you, or this me talking about this hasn't already convinced you, is that this is being administered covertly internationally, and it's all governed because these member states are paying a yearly and annual copyright fee in order to be able to use that within their system. So you can simply go on to UNIDROIT website, have a look at all the member states. Any member state that is there, that is listed, is covertly administering their UCC within their system, but disguised as statutory jurisdiction. And UNIDROIT is otherwise an agency that's 100 yards down from the Holy See in the Vatican. So again, all roads lead back to Rome, as we all know, or most of us on this journey anyway. So it continues. Turning to an overview of the code itself, the statute now comprises 13 articles, 2 of which deal with transition and are omitted from this overview. So we have Article 1, which contains the general definitions and principles applicable to all articles. So I've just also, for you guys as well on the Dropbox link, I've added just the general definitions. So subsection 1201 through 1204, and you can see here it's just got some of the main terms that you may want to just read and reference, that otherwise is brought up in the other articles when they're obviously using that terminology relevant to what they're talking about. So that is there for you guys if you wish, which kind of means that you don't really need to purchase Article 1 if you want to save a bit of money, because everything's going to be covered here, and otherwise what is scanned in that you guys can access on that PDF. So just take that into consideration. It says here Article 2 deals basically with the sale of goods. We've got Article 2A governs leases of goods. So I'm not covering these presentations, so if you want to go and purchase the Article 2 book in your own time and read through that, highly recommend. There's probably going to be some good things in there too, but we're going to focus on what I mentioned at the beginning. Article 3 primarily deals with checks and promissory notes, the 2 main types of negotiable instruments, formerly called commercial paper. The article also deals with drafts and many written certificate of deposits. It governs the rights and liabilities of parties who make, use and receive such paper. So that's going to be a really key one that we're going to be breaking down in the next presentation. Also alongside Article 4, which governs bank deposits and collections with respect to checks, drafts and other items in the payment process. We'll be going through Article 5, which deals with letters of credit, a device frequently used as payment mechanism. A letter of credit is like a guarantee, but with a major difference. The letter of credit issuer's obligation is independent of the transaction for which the letter of credit was issued. This is normally used in international trades with imports and exports, but again, really quite interesting to know. And some of the terminology around that as well, and how it can imply with what we will be doing when we set ourselves up as a private banker. And we've got Article 6 is an offshoot of Article 2, for a specialised type of sale, which is a bulk sale, economies of scale. We've got Article 7 deals with documents of title, that are not governed by federal law. It covers the rights of parties in shipments using, again, as that term, bills of lading, or in storage using warehouse receipts. Okay, so when breaking down and going through the examples and the definitions of these codes and these terms, you can otherwise see how it can relate to some of the instruments that we carry, such as our birth certificate. Okay, so if you look at our birth certificate under the maritime system, okay, on the seas, it would otherwise can be translated as being a bill of lading, okay? Whereas if we're on the land, it can also be considered a warehouse receipt, okay? No matter which way you look at it, from the sea, being birthed in from a mother's birth canal, being born into the ship estate, etc., with the dock there, doctor, the dock ready to, receive the vessel. And then once that vessel is received, it is then brought on dry land, dry dock, and stored in the warehouse, okay? So you know what I mean? You can see then how the two kind of cross over, where land meets sea within this system. So both allegories, metaphors, and terminologies kind of apply with how we're being treated within the system too, okay? So yeah, that's obviously something to keep in mind, and obviously, helps us break down the kind of situation we find ourselves in, okay? So a lot of it is hidden in allegory, just like in scripture, right, with the truth, with, so-called Jesus walking on water. He didn't literally walk on water, but it's otherwise an allegory, a metaphor for being able to control and master the maritime admiralty realm of commerce, okay? The Babylonian commercial system, and kicking that commerce and that commercial system out of your temple, okay, which is your body, your vessel, all right? You're going to be the master of your own ship, the master, the landlord, the lord of your own land, which comprises your whole being. So you're all made of minerals from the earth, and you also store a lot of water too. So it covers both jurisdictions, land and water. Air as well. All the elements, including ether, okay, which is your spirit. So that's what this is all about. But this is mainly focused on, obviously, water, governing and mastering the water element and the earth element. Okay, the air element is otherwise your spirit, which involves trust law. The fire is otherwise that transmutational element that kind of joins all three. And then you've got ether, which is your spirit, okay, which is otherwise universal law, God's law. All right, so you can see how that all kind of ties in. It's a very esoteric process, this journey that we're on, as most of you are fully aware of. So Article 7, yep, gone through that, documents and title. Article 8 deals with investment securities. This is a big one, okay, stocks and bonds, whether held in paper form, in uncertificated form, or indirectly in a brokerage account or other book entry format. Okay, so we'll break down, that's one to look forward to. Article 9 deals with security interest and personal property that are granted by agreement. It also governs certain liens created by law rather than by agreement. It was revised in 1998 and additional amendments were promulgated in 2010. Okay, again, that's another big one when it comes to controlling our security interests. So we have here subsection 1, 106, use of singular and plural gender in the Uniform Commercial Code unless the statutory context otherwise requires. It's that the singular be plural and also across the genders. I expect you guys have read a lot of documents where this is stated, just to make sure that everything is covered, okay, with the wording that's otherwise outlined in any documents that you might put together, that this is often cited. I've seen plenty of times, so that's where that comes from. You've got subsection 1, 108, relation to electronic signatures and Global National Commerce Act. You'll find that ever since 2001, especially when they took down the World Trade Center, that there was this push within the legal system in order to bring everything into being accepted electronically, digitally, okay, in preparation for the new age of technology, which is the age of Aquarius. Okay, so you can see here, e-sign, that basically a signature, contract or other record relating to such transaction may not be denied legal effect, validity and enforceability solely because it's an electronic form. Okay, and this goes into when we start breaking down Article 8, security investments with the DTCC and the QCIP global services and all these guys, and how that they're now, in order to process the offsetting of the books, everything's done so quick and it's all just recorded electronically. Okay, and there's hardly any certificates that are issued nowadays. It's just all book entry systems and accounting. Okay, that's all it is. Double entry book entry systems. So we have section 1, 2, and 1B3 defines agreement to include terms arising from not only the record or oral bargain of the parties, but also from course of dealing, usage of trade, or course of performance. The observance of reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. This is very important. We always want to be seen to be acting in good faith under, fair dealing practices. So section 201B20 provides this definition of good faith within the code. Except as otherwise provided in Article 5 means honesty in fact and the observation of reasonable commercial standards of fair dealing. Okay, it's very, very important. We always want to be writing letters in good faith, doing everything in good faith and fair dealing. Subsection 1305B seems to state the obvious, the old maxim, that for every right there is a remedy. And if you guys recollect the UCC connection, that author otherwise brilliantly breaks down and shows how the common law is otherwise hidden within the UCC, and that's what it's modelled off of, and how to invoke that. And that particularly happens under this next subsection, which is subsection 1308, which is performance or acceptance under reservation of rights. Okay, where it states a party with the explicit reservation of rights performs or promises performance or assents to performance in a manner demanded or offered by the party does not thereby prejudice the rights reserved. Okay, such words as without prejudice or under protest or the like are sufficient. And if you guys recollect, for those of you who've gone through the advanced treasury pack, you can see under cracking the codes PDF, okay, which is this one here, which is under the Dropbox link under the treasury pack module. If you go to page 350, I believe it is, it otherwise breaks down perfectly how we can sign your signature without liability. Okay, it gives examples of this, which again just helps reinforce that section of the code, UCC 1308, and why we're doing that. Okay, and also the UCC connection breaks that down perfectly as well and gives more explanation as to what that means. Okay, so again, highly recommend, guys, if you haven't gone and seen that yet, UCC connection presentation, and buy the book and read the book. Okay, that otherwise I go over the notes of that too, and also cracking the codes. Okay, especially in that section, which is good little reads, which again gives more impetus as to why we want to be signing the way we're signing with reserving all our rights. Okay, under UCC code 1308. So it also says here, subsection 1309, option to accelerate at will. This is just preparing yourself when you become an international creditor and you've got a lot of res out there, property and credits that you're going to be drawing up in the future as a private banker, that the rights and recourses that are going to be available to you at an international level, if you so wish, that you can enforce on the debtors. Okay, those individuals or corporations or agencies or persons that otherwise, you are bestowing an obligation, a loan or credit to under a contract, a security agreement, okay, in which you can invoke. And this goes and says, a term providing that one party or that party's successor in interest may accelerate payment or performance or require collateral or additional collateral at will, or when the party deems itself insecure, or words of similar import, means that the party has power to do so only if that party in good faith believes that the prospect of payment or performance is impaired. The burden of establishing lack of good faith is on the party against which the power has been exercised. Okay, so this is maybe something you can accelerate against these agencies who don't want to play ball when it comes to you redeeming the securities that are lawfully yours that they've otherwise taken away from you. Okay, you can accelerate them through the recoupment process of, taking back control, as it were. Then we have here, just put down here, it's quite interesting, a nervous banker's clause on section 1309, okay, provides that such a right is exercisable only if the party having the right believes in good faith that the prospect of payment or performance is impaired. Okay, so that's just a little bit of an oddball clause, but obviously know that that's something that happens all the time when, creditors realise that the debtor is otherwise insolvent or bankrupt or has to go through bankruptcy. But the whole system's operating under bankruptcy. As we know, everything's inverted, okay, but there obviously is such thing as default, and this is something they otherwise put in, okay, but this is why under Article 9 and the whole UCC, when it comes to controlling your security interest and making sure that you're first in line, first in time, first in right to receive the proceeds of any debtor that otherwise may be bankrupt or becoming insolvent or going into default, that you can at least recoup as much as you can of what is otherwise owed to you. Okay, and this is all about, again, perfecting and controlling your security interests, because all there is debt We haven't got any lawful money. It's all colorable. So it's all securities. It's all about controlling your debt and debtors. Okay, in that instance, our strawman is our debtor. We are secured party and creditor. Okay, and anyway, as we go through the articles, it all start making a lot more sense. And a few of these things that I chuck in there are just kind of a bit of trivia, you know, which I found quite interesting. So Novus Bankers course, there you go. There's obviously a lot of Novus Bankers back in 2008. And every time there's an interest rate hike, there is a lot of Novus Bankers too, because that exposes a lot of the bad debts or bad debtors, you know, who can't really afford the loan obligations that they've taken on, which can result in a huge increase in defaults, which obviously means that the banks lose out on money through the interest repayments. And as interest rates go up, yes, they've got to pay out more on savings accounts. However, they're able to charge more on loan agreements. But if you guys recollect, ever since 08, when they dropped the base rate down to like, you know, 0.5%, near 0%, right, in order to try and stimulate the economy, these guys are still charging 20%, 90% APR on credit cards and stuff. So it's ridiculous. These guys are making hay whilst the sun's been shining, and they continue to do so because it's all drafted on an account from a zero balance, and the way money is created is through us. We are all private bankers, right? And most people don't even realize that. Okay, but these codes, as we go through this, it'll help break down with everything that we're doing with the Advanced Treasury Pack, okay, the power behind our own signature and controlling and issuing our own negotiable instruments, notes, drafts, bills of exchange, okay, and securities, and how to securitize that, control that, protect that, so these guys can't come along, these pirates can't come along and salvage it for their benefit. Okay, so with that being said, guys, that wraps up Article 1, General Provisions. I shall see you over on the next presentation where we'll be breaking down Articles 3 and Articles 4, which covers negotiable instruments, okay, and bank deposits and collections and other modern payment systems. All right, guys, I'll see you then. Thanks, bye-bye.